People power growth, but recruiting and onboarding are expensive, exhausting, and absolutely overwhelming. I've been there, and it doesn't have to be this way. Welcome to Hire and Empower. I'm your host, Molly McGrath. Join me as we interview leaders who care about their teams and distill powerful lessons from them. This show is sponsored by H&E, helping organizations to find their best hire and empower them for success. Learn more at hiringandempowering.com. All right, listeners, welcome back. And if you are a first-time listener, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, make sure that you subscribe at the bottom so you get all of our upcoming podcasts and on your favorite channel. And we send a new episode out every single Tuesday. We have not missed 1 week in 4 years now. So I'm super excited about that. And hey, it's the beginning of the year. What is everybody's favorite conversation? You're going to all these New Year, New You events. I see people flying all over the country, going to quarterly strategic meetings, double your revenue, this, etc. And the number one thing I see coming back is we need more leads. We need more leads. Marketing, 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 marketing. Well, today's guest, I'm very excited about Chris Mullins, CEO of Intake Academy. And I'm really excited because I found Chris in a Facebook group where I consistently have people say, does anybody know anybody who has training for intake coordinators? How can I train my people on intake? Yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden I saw Chris's name just like blowing up the chat on Lawyers on the Beach. I was so excited. I reached out to her immediately. We connected, and now she's teaching 6-week series in our law firm admin bootcamp. So Chris, I'm so grateful to have found you, and thank you for being my guest today.
Yeah, absolutely. I am also grateful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. So today's conversation we're talking about, folks, is great marketing is not enough if your prospects do not convert. So Chris, talk to us a little bit about this. I know you teach your students this quite often, and it's very revolutionary and mind-blowing.
Yeah, well, what I find is law firms spend huge sums of money on marketing, and they have little to no effort for teaching the team on how to handle those calls, how to handle those leads, how to sell, how to convert, and then eventually how to retain them. There's just no effort put into that at all. So how can you really convert a prospect to a client if your team doesn't know how to sell?
And so when you talk about getting your team to sell, so I'm pouring all this money, energy, effort into marketing, and then my phone's ringing off the hook, but I don't have any cash at the end of the week. I can't make payroll, maybe for some people that I've heard before. Talk to me a little bit about what a conversion means to you, first and foremost, because sometimes I find people are even a little fuzzy on that term.
Yeah, and I think, I hear different terms for it from different people, but for me, it means you have a prospect, whether they come to you via chat or a web form or a phone call, you convert them by getting them to sign a retainer, an agreement, a professional services agreement, whatever you're calling it. And that's the responsibility of intake. And then after that, everything else goes to, paralegal, legal assistants. They take the baton from there, if you will.
So that's for some firms that maybe charge for initial consultation or what have you, right?
It's for any firm.
Yeah.
And any firm at all. You get your lead, and then you've got to sell them. You've got to get them to be a client. And the only way to do that is to get them to sign your agreement. And the person that does that, the team that does that, is intake. I mean, some firms these days, they're calling intake different names. But I think if I say intake, everybody will understand who I'm talking about.
Some people call it still call it a receptionist, or might call it a
oh no. Oh,
Or they have all these outsourced companies that they're using and treating them for intake and and not even measuring you. I know you and I in the program, you're going to have some people recording calls and things of that nature.
God.
There's a lot of secret shoppers. I've had a secret shopper on my podcast before on there, but sometimes some firms, this is their process. A lot of our listeners, phone rings, and let's just say you do have a dedicated client service coordinator or intake coordinator.
Sure. Yeah.
Their job is to get them to schedule a consultation, whether it's with, some people call it a dragon or a non-attorney salesperson, or it might be a paraprofessional that's handling that first meeting, or it might be the attorney and then the conversion. So I think there's two conversions depending on your practice model.
Right. Yeah.
It might be phone call to getting them take the next right move in your process, whether it is getting into the conference room or signing a retainer for a paid consultation, right?
Yeah. So whatever your sale is for you at that first point of communication, so free consultation, for example, like you said, that would be your conversion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're converting from a prospect to the next step. And depending on the different firms, we all are converting, but we all have a different definition of what the next step is.
And it's so funny because when you don't track that, I'll hear attorneys saying, oh, my marketing company's garbage. They're not producing any results, what have you. I'm like, furnish a report. Give me a report of the amount of leads that they have generated this week, this month, this quarter, this year, what have you. Now, let's take a look at what happened with that lead. And you'll see a bucket full of leads, tons and tons of leads, to your point, and then no booked appointments or no hires, if you will. So there's, it, depending on your process, listeners, either conversion one might be initial raising their hand to booking the next step in your process. And then what happens when they meet with someone to signing that retainer agreement, that engagement agreement, whatever.
Right. Yeah, 100%. And what we tend to do when we find that we're not converting, whatever the conversion is for you, the way we want or as much as we want to, that's one of the first things we do is we blame the marketing company. And we get a lot of phone calls from the marketing companies saying, hey, we need your help because we have the leads, we can prove it, but they're not converting. And so then the next thing that we tend to do as far as like the managing partners or the owners of the firms is they just throw more money into marketing.
Yes.
Because they think if they get more leads, it'll be okay. And what you really need to do is, before you kind of point fingers, is just, first thing is just look in the mirror and ask yourself, do you provide the proper training and education and support and coaching to your team, whether it's one person or 3 people or 5 people? Do you do that? If you don't do that, then you don't really have to look too much further, because you know you're not helping them, you're not setting them up for success. And then you've got to start putting those steps in place.
So what do you recommend? I'm listening to this and saying, yeah, my calendar doesn't look the way I want it to be, with either free discovery calls, paid discovery calls, initial consultations, whatever term, and definitely not with the hires for the amount of money that I'm spending. And so I think so often the intake coordinators, whoever's answering the phone, will say that they're bad leads. Right?
Yes.
Do you hear this? But they have no
That's
data to report that. They were calling in for a DUI, and we do real estate. Even then, I don't know that I would call that a bad lead, because then you can refer it out and add them to your database and what have you. So talk to us, give us some tips, techniques that you train in the Intake Academy to really get these intake coordinators up and running and excited about working with you.
Well, the first step is And by the way, when you mentioned about the referrals, that's a whole other profit center right there. So you
Yes.
definitely should be focusing on that.
Yes.
But the first step is the owner, for example. I'm just going to say owner, but it can be managing partner,
Sure.
whatever. It's different for each firm. You first have to accept the fact that your intake coordinator or coordinators, they're salespeople. But I don't mean salespeople in the stereotypical way. I don't mean it in a way of being dishonest or being aggressive or not caring about what you're doing. But you are running a business, so you have to have sales because you have a bottom line. So it is selling, but it's not aggressive selling or sounding scripted or robotic or anything like that. But you need to, as the owner, you've got to embrace the fact, oh yeah, I do have that in my business. It is a key part of my business. But to me, selling is also experience and customer service and doing the very, very best that you can for that prospect, and then taking the same skills and doing it for the client, if that's your responsibility too. So first, it's the mindset of the owner. And once you have that mindset, because I mean, sales and marketing and sales, they go together. I mean, it's the same song. And you have to have the right tools in place, or you're hemorrhaging with your marketing. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing after that mindset is to ask yourself, how can you help the intake coordinator to be really successful? Well, you definitely want to tell them that it is sales that they're doing, but you want to coach them. It's not sales. It's not the bad word sales. We have to convert for that free consultation, or we don't have a firm. I mean, there's no need, if we don't do this, if we don't convert, if we're not successful with it, then we don't really have a law firm. So we have to do that for our bottom line. And then you have to teach them how to sell, but not, again, in the stereotypical way, because they will push back, especially if they weren't hired to be a salesperson.
Yes. I always like to use the word like we need to enroll them
Yes, that's
versus
great
sell
too.
them into the next step or convert. And I love your point. The reason we hired you, intake coordinator, client service coordinator, what have you, is because of your compassion, your
Yeah.
natural compassion, empathy, your sparkleness. I have one law firm that their intake coordinator, they nicknamed her Sparkle, because
That's
she
great.
when she answers the phone, she lights up, because we're helping people. And if you're calling a law firm, you're expecting you're calling an expert. People wouldn't be calling you in the first place. And they're expecting, what do attorneys do? They counsel, they give advice. So when I'm calling your law firm, I'm expecting you to tell me what to do next. And I need, to your point, having that conversation with, this is what you bring to the table. This is your natural energy, your natural essence. You already have it in your DNA makeup, but we got to match your natural unique ability with some training and support for this. And I don't know one person that had that combination that wouldn't rise above, because to the point of, you need to educate them on why you pick them, why you have them. Otherwise, I'll go get Ruby receptionist or some kind of robot to answer the phone. We have a dedicated front of the line intake coordinator, because we want people to feel loved, acknowledged, understood, that they're in the exact right place. We want to give them VIP complimentary service, which includes them hiring us.
Exactly. And you want to, the other thing too about the S word sales that you may need to be careful of. I mean, so as the business owner, it is selling and it's your bottom line, and you just got to accept it. And so you have to, you got to take care of it
and embrace it.
And you got to embrace it, and you can do it. I mean, you've gotten this far, you can do it. But separate from that, the way you speak to your team, it's kind of like, you got to be pretty gentle with the S word, because if they weren't hired to do that, they're they're not going to hear all the positive things that you have to say. They're going to mostly feel like, I don't want to be a salesperson. That's not me. I'm not that kind of person. So there's some ways that you have to communicate with your team to help bring them along, and kind of like what you're saying is amplify the wonderful things about them and how those wonderful things can help so many people, and providing love, care, and concern at the same exact time to every person that you touch, and then teach them how to do it. So get them the right training to do it so that they can be better than better.
Yes, I love it. You say that. So read the room, know your audience, know what words you can use. Be careful with the S word. I would agree with you wholeheartedly. I have a paralegal right now, not even a classically trained certified paralegal, what have you, been in the law firm for, since day one, started out as quote unquote, just a receptionist, administrative assistant, answering the phone, phenomenal on it. Phenomenal. And now she's graduated into handling signing meetings with the firm. And now she's moving into handling initial consultations, where it's a sales meeting, right? But you cannot use that word with her. She will constantly say, I don't want anyone else talking to my clients. The clients really like when she's mother hen, mama bear about these clients. But if you use the word sales with her, she'll absolutely crumble.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the training programs that we do, we don't use the word sales because we know our audience, and we don't want it to kind of make everything so foggy that they just can't move forward. But honestly, inspect what you expect. So just the best thing that you can do for your marketing dollars and for your team and for all the people that you're trying to help, which is why you became an attorney, is to listen to call recordings. So get your calls recorded. It's basically marketing insurance policy, getting your calls recorded. It protects your marketing dollars. So you get to listen to the calls in the cloud and hear how wonderful your team is, and then tell them how wonderful they are, give them the feedback. And then if you hear some opportunities, tell them about that too, and then match that up with whatever kind of training that you've been giving them. Say, okay, those lessons there that we taught you, that's how you apply those to what we just heard on your call. So that's inspecting what you expect. If I was in a room of 3,000 or 4,000 people speaking on the stage, and I was asked, hey, Chris, what's the single most important thing that we can do? Just one thing. Don't give us all this. Just give us one.
Yes.
Listen to your call recordings. Bottom line, if you did that, you will absolutely improve just by inspecting what you expect. What you focus on expands. What gets measured gets done.
I love that you say, because I've always heard this statement, people respect what you inspect, but I liked your shift of inspecting what you expect, because maybe you weren't really clear on your expectations in the front. Maybe, so talk to us about two things. I love this. So number one, maybe you're talking jibber jabber to me and I don't even know where to go to get my calls recorded. What would you recommend there?
The most popular, and my understanding is the easiest that my clients tend to use, is CallRail.
Yes. And it's typically attached to your Google AdWords and your Google My Business and all that jazz too. And it's like $30 a month or something, right?
I don't know how much it is, but back in the day, it was so complicated to get your calls recorded. And I mean, I'll tell you, back in the day, my team used to do mystery calls, and we recorded them on cassettes, and we mailed cassette players and to our clients because they wouldn't listen to them.
Because they said they didn't have a cassette player?
Yeah, so I said, well, I'm going to give you one. Here you go. So we mailed it to them. But back in the day, it used to be really expensive, but not just expensive, but difficult to get your calls recorded. And when we get a new client, if any of them, most of them have it already recorded, but if any of them don't, it's like within a matter of days. Okay, I'm all done. I got it done, Chris. So CallRail is the most popular. The other one is Ring Central.
Okay.
I do want to say rinse, it's also popular, but it's much more expensive.
Yes.
And but I think for some firms, it's what they need, and they'll get all the bells and whistles. But call rail, I think, is a good.
I
first
would agree. Because my understanding, the reporting I look, when I do look at the call rail reporting, it's attached to Google My Business, Google AdWords, and all that. So it serves a couple purposes as
Mhm.
well. So, all right, I go to this call rail thing. I love what you're saying, Chris. I get this uploaded. Now, how do I have this conversation with my people answering the phones and I'm recording their calls?
You should go under the desk while you're telling them what you're finding. No, it's not hard if you have, the way you want your team to treat your prospects and your clients is with love, care, and concern. And so you should have the same thought process for you to your team. So if you treat them that way and you have, you know, consideration for them and their feelings and empathy, it shouldn't be difficult. So what you would do is you pick a couple of call recordings and you make sure in advance that your team knows that you're recording calls, and don't forget to check the laws for recording calls in your state and make sure that they know. And they're going to have a difficult time with it, but tell them the reason that you're doing it. You want to see what they're doing great so they can keep doing it, because sometimes we're just on automatic pilot. We don't know the great things that we do until we kind of take a hard look at it. And so tell them that, and then tell them the opportunities, and use the word opportunity, but then tell them how to fix it. You can't just say, here's the opportunity and that's it, go fix it. You got to hold their hand and help them, because they're learning and they're growing. And be ready, because no matter how gingerly you are with this process, it's really tough for people. I mean, we even listen to attorney call recordings, and it's tough for the attorneys when we play back them in a group of 30 attorneys on Zoom. So it is difficult for people, bottom line. Nobody likes to listen to their recorded voice. That's hard.
No.
And then when you're having somebody else listen to it with you, or a team, or it's tough. So expect it, get ready for it, and just be gentle.
Yeah, I love it. So number one, speak into the why and the opportunity. I love that word, which is multiple. Number one, we're recording the calls for a few reasons, if I hear you right. Number one, check in on what's working, not working with marketing. Marketing's job is to get the phone to ring. And so I need to figure out, sometimes people might say specific words that'll ding, ding, ding in my head that you wouldn't know to say they're using an SEO term that says specifically this, and it's not the right term. It needs to be a negative key term, not a positive one. Number two, it allow me to hear, where I can invest in you and support you. So maybe get the Intake Academy and enroll you. And I want you to tell us a little bit about the Intake Academy and support you and give you that gift going forward, because again, you're going to pour into them. You have what it takes. You have the care, the love, the concern, all that jazz. And then as you were talking, I'm like, number three, here's another strategic byproduct. I always train my people that we're always going to replace ourselves. So today you might be on the phones, but eventually you might want to grow into being the marketing coordinator, or being a true non-attorney salesperson, or a community outreach coordinator, or what have you. So we're going to use this as R&D and systems building going forward, because the next person that comes in, you're going to have to train them.
Yeah.
So there's so many multipliers with that. And I'm just thinking, I do not listen to myself ever on recording. However, I'm just thinking of somebody in the law firm admin boot camp that you're going to come teach a 6-week series on. The number one thing, there's 115 admin assistants in different levels, marketing coordinators, paralegals, a few associate attorneys in there. The number one thing they want out of this program, more confidence. in whatever specific role they're in, right?
Mhm.
So I'm thinking if I get special time with my attorney, or my attorney's going to invest and put me in this intake academy. And yes, it's brutal to listen to your own voice, but you listen to 2, 3, 5, 6 of these calls or what have you. The way that you get confidence is to stay in action. So it's going to get less and less more
Yeah.
uncomfortable as you listen to it. But
Mhm.
then I'm just like, wow, this is a great way to increase your team's confidence too,
Right.
because they're seeing their progression.
Right, right. This is all about relationships and communications and empathy. And for us, the two things that we hear that most people want to get is confidence and learn how to be empathetic.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, those are the two things. But you're right. You have to keep the ball rolling forward to build your confidence and step out of your comfort zone. Do things that are kind of like pretty uncomfortable that you normally wouldn't do. Maybe make a list of once a month of 5 things. And then when you're ready to make a decision, just choose one and just dive in, lean forward, dive in, go for it. No one said you have to do it forever. The point is just dive in and see how it feels.
wow. So I know you work with big firms, you work with
Mhm.
PI firms, you work with all different areas of law. You know, typically, what do you see when people invest in the Intake Academy and really invest, in my opinion, the most important role in the law firm? Because your people on the front lines answering the phone, if they're not feeling confident and
Yeah.
empathetic and making a difference and making sales and getting people to convert, your job's irrelevant as the attorney because you have no one to meet with or whoever's signing people up. So what
Mhm.
do you typically see? What can people expect from putting their team members through this program?
Okay. Now, do you mean like what it looks like or how the team will feel?
How, like, results
Well,
overall?
results overall, just by doing this program, I mean, we've seen firms improve conversion by 30%. Some quite
Wow.
a bit more than that, but it comes down to inspecting what you expect, and then what gets measured gets done, what you focus on expands. That's really what it comes down to. You just take the lessons and apply them, and you're going to get results. So whatever your baseline is, it's impossible. It's just impossible to not improve dramatically by all of a sudden doing customer service training and communications and relationships and assumptive language and sales and asking for the sale. And I mean, how can you not improve?
Absolutely. I love it. So do you teach them about assumptive
Oh
language?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what you teach in your program.
Yeah. So when it comes time for the conversion of whatever your sale is, based on what you said. So I'll just give you one that right off the top of my head. Based on what you said, this is a case that we can help you with, and we're going to send you our agreement right now over DocuSign. I'll stay right here and answer your questions for you. I'll show you where you need to sign, and then we'll get started on your case. And that's and so what I just did, whatever your sale is, free consultation, all the different steps of your sale, selling workshops, whatever it is, it's the same exact thing.
Yes.
It's
You
no
are
different.
walking, you're not letting them off the phone until
No.
they sign on whatever the proverbial dotted line is.
Yeah, and the other big thing too is the mindset of the intake coordinator. We help with that mindset to remember that you're being of service to these
Yes.
people. And it's really a big deal what you're doing. They're at the end of their rope when they contact you. And so they're looking for you to be their rock, and they need you to be their rock. And if you don't do these steps and these lessons, it's going to be really difficult for you to be able to go home at night and say how many people you actually helped that day with getting them to the next step. And assumptive language and mindset is really huge. Your mindset every day needs to be, I hope I get some new clients today. I think I'm going to get 10 today. I think I'm going to get 5. It's just the mindset of, oh yeah, this is just what I do.
This is what I do. This is what I do well. This
Yeah.
is what I do of service. So even
What I'm
just
here
say,
for.
okay, great.
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for. So I'm going to stay on the line with you. I'm going to walk you through and make sure. I mean, think about that. It's not manipulation at all. That lands like absolute service. And not only that, listen, I'm not going to let you hang up and then you get overwhelmed or you get confused or what have you, and you put it on your list to call me back later. And then we all know that when the call comes, it's too late. Had I not just helped you and walked you through that? Because I don't think people are like have in their mind. I think attorneys and as intake coordinators, we think they're going to die when they see the price or the fee. And I think that's our own head trash. So many market results show that's not the case.
It's your own head trip stuff. That's what I call it. And so just get rid of it, because remember now, you didn't wake up on a Sunday morning with a box of perfume samples and go knocking on someone's door, and they didn't even invite you in to try to sell them. These people are coming to you because of the marketing. They chose you. You didn't choose them. And so they didn't choose you because they thought it was going to be free. And most people have probably communicated on the internet anyway. They've probably shopped around and got educated. So if they called you, they're ready, 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 ready. You just have to hold their hand and guide them through the process safely and easily.
Yes. And I want to clarify something. The definition of call are people that are downloading your PDF stuff, registering for your workshop. Now that we have all this digital and online and automation jazz going on as well, because they register, what have you, but imagine your intake coordinator picks up the phone and they're like, great, I saw that you registered, or I saw that you downloaded this. Let me walk you through the next steps. And they will be blown away when somebody actually picks up the phone and calls them.
Of course they will, because nobody does it anymore.
No.
Yeah, nobody does it anymore. Yeah, they definitely will. And the other thing to remember is I'm going to give you a question that you can ask now. So you could just take what I'm going to say right now and you could start using it in your firm. After you do your initial welcome on the call with the prospective client that's called you, and they tell you what they're calling for, you can ask them, tell me, what is it that got you to give us a call today about? And then just plug in whatever they said they're calling for. What you're trying to identify is, what is their emotional pain? What's their personal motivator in their decision-making process? So whatever they said that they're calling for, that's not really it. That's not the pain that they're trying to solve. It's something else that they're trying to solve. So what is the trigger that got them to finally say, I got to do this. I got to call. I can't put this off anymore. So what was it?
And I love adding that word. Did I hear that right? Today.
And I did it very slowly, and I paused and I waited.
Yes. I love that. Okay. Tell our listeners how they can hear more, find out more about the Intake Academy, because listen, attorneys, you should not be training your team.
No,
you should give them to Chris.
You should be practicing law.
Yes, give them to Chris and let her do her magic.
Yeah, so you can email Chris at intakeacademy.com, CHRIS. You can go to our website, intakeacademy.com. And I'll give you my phone number direct to my desk, and you can call me. And if I'm not available, you'll talk to Tracy. The phone number, and we're on Eastern time. The phone number is 603-249-5878. 603-249-5878.
Great, great, great. And you have some books on your website, right?
Yes.
What's a great book to start off with?
Well, the one on our website is Law Firm Conversions. Great marketing is not enough if your prospects don't convert. So that's a great book. It's great for the managing partners, the owners, the attorneys, and for the team. And then we have another book that's called Intake Specialists, The Unsung Heroes of Law Firms Worldwide.
Oh my goodness. Great. And I'm seeing it's all here on your website.
Yes.
So great. Opt in, get a copy. You can also book a 15-minute consult with Chris on our website as well. Some great articles there, mental health for intake specialists and empathy. There's just so much amazing content out there. Chris, thank you for coming and being our guest today, for doing the work you do, because I have been on a witch hunt to find someone like you, because this is not my strong suit to train people. And then also, lastly, thank you for coming in and teaching at our law firm admin boot camp.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I can't wait.
Yes. Okay, listeners. Until next time, share our podcast with your friends and family and colleagues. Subscribe down below for your favorite channel that you get all of your podcasts and great news from. And until next time, continue being a legal leader, leading a legal leader. We've reached the end of another impactful conversation on the Hire and Empower podcast. Whether this was your first episode or you're a longtime listener, I know you can tell I have passion for people. Whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, I understand the situation you're in. Hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and if that's not enough, it's also time-consuming. My friends, it doesn't have to be this way. There is a team at H&E that has your back. For over 25 years, they've transformed over 4,000 law firms into efficient, effective, profitable assets for their business and made it fun to come to work again. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com. This episode is being sponsored by Legalese Marketing. Listen, law firms have many ebbs and flows, and we tend to see this typical pattern. When things around the office are slow, lawyers get better at following up. But when the bustle is back, they tend to drop the ball. What if you had a system in place that not only automated follow-ups, but could guide potential clients seamlessly through the intake process and beyond? The team at Legalese works with your firm to create a custom pipeline of emails, text messages, and follow-up calls sent to your leads when you want them to be sent. Whether it's a consultation confirmation email sent a minute after the request goes through, long-term nurture emails sent 6 months later, a request for Google reviews sent to the most opportune times, they put a system in place that improves your client experience while taking tasks off of your plate. Or maybe you're already rolling in a software or CRM, but it's not set up as you want. Or perhaps you know you could be maximizing your automations more. Sometimes it's hard to tell what you need without a deep dive into your account. That's where Legalese audits and analysis come in. First, their team will learn everything about your processes and how you intend them. Then they'll go through your automations and map out the needed changes. Lastly, you'll discuss a plan forward and how to make your optimized office a reality. Legalese team pushes the boundaries of what automation can do to help your firm operate in ways you think were possible. Don't let potential clients slip through the cracks by not following up with them. Schedule a consultation today with Legalese Marketing. They look forward to helping you create more time, consistency, and your KPIs. To learn more, go to legalesemarketing.com and book your free consultation call today.